Hey, what's up, guys? I am going to try to go through this real fast because I don't have a lot of time, and I'm going to just go through the basics of the 1% strategy and what we'll be doing as we go through on a regular basis. How we'll be able to make it happen. So, oops, wrong one. Didn't mean to pull that screen over there. This is the screen I want. All right, I'm gonna just go through. I've worked with my Chat GPT to kind of come up with with this, um, and this is like just like I said, the basics of what I do, and I'm not showing you anything yet. There it is. I'm still there. There's the screen I wanted to share. All right, so imagine adding about 1% to your account this week, then doing it again every single week. I'm trying not to read to you, but I think I will kind of sort of. When I say 1%, I mean targeting a 1% gain on the account for the week. If the account's $1,000, our weekly target is only going to be $10. It sounds small, but small is controllable. 52 of those put together, and you have a habit that is the most important: consistency. And that's where I'm going to need your help with our accountability and building something for ourselves. On screen, we'll just show you that $1,000 we'll be looking for $10 a week. $2,000 account, we're gonna be looking for $20 a week. And every single week, we're gonna just look what's the account size, and then what's the new percentage that, or what's the new target that you're looking for. And then sometimes you will get higher than that target. Um, Two tools that make this work for us are something called covered calls and cash secured puts. Covered calls are when you own 100 shares of a stock and then you sell what's called a call against them to collect a premium. Um, and we'll keep moving. Cash secured put is where you sell a put. These are two things: a call and a put. So you sell a put with enough cash set aside to buy 100 shares if assigned. Both are income style strategies that pay you up front. So you will get a premium up front. We're not guessing the direction, we're just being paid to take either the stock ownership or to cap the upside on ours with the calls. Cap the upside of stock that we own with the call. Um, so with covered calls, you own 100 shares and you sell one call and you get the premium now. I'll explain what the call and the puts are a little bit later. Um, Picking the right stocks, we're going to keep it boring. And this is where it's important to not get attracted to or distracted by all of the shiny stuff that's going on in the market. But if we keep it boring, you look for an option volume. So companies or that have some movement in the market, the share price that you can afford to buy 100 shares of, this something that's stable and not moving real crazy. So you're not looking for something that's going shooting up, $10 a day or something. And then weekly options are available, which means that we can do this every single week. So what we're looking for is volume, affordability, stability, and weekly. Volume, affordability, stability, and weekly. The weekly game plan is real simple. Each week we run the same playbook. Scan a short list. We'll build that up to about 5 to 10 stocks that we know and use all the time. Choose one setup that fits our rules, which is basically going to be 2 days to the upside from a low. Size the trade so our account risk is tiny, so we keep a certain, we don't get out over our skis. The risk that we take is one that we can handle, so that we can stay in the game. We enter one position, aim to make about 1% of the count, and then stop. One good rep beats 5 random swings. If we hit the weekly target on Monday, we're done. Discipline is the edge. Discipline is the edge. And I'll get into that later. On-screen steps: scan, choose, size, entry. This is a script that I put together that was going to make all these videos or make all these visuals and stuff. But I got to get going because, as I said in yesterday's video and maybe a time or two before, that you don't know how much time you got. And so I need to get this to you so you understand how to make it happen. But let's say your account is $1,000 and you're practicing on very small shares. To do a real cover call, you need 100 shares. So you have to pick a lower price stock that's steady, and we'll go through that. So here's a scenario. Stock is cost $9.80. So you buy 100 shares, that's $980. Then you sell a 1 week call at the $10 strike for 12 cents, which is a $12 total. Your weekly target is 1%, $10. This is a little bit better. So you're done. Then you're done. Okay. So how that works, if the stock stays below $10, so you bought it for $9.80. That's $980 for 100 shares. You sell a week call at the $10 strike. That means that someone is agreeing to buy it from you for $10 on Friday, because the contract expires on Friday. So we'll say this is on Monday. You buy the $980 worth of shares, and then you sell a call. So someone gives you $12 because you did that. So your weekly 1%, $12, that's a hit. If the stock stays below $10 by Friday, then you keep the shares and the $12. So you now have those 100 shares still. If the stock goes above the $10, then your shares will get called away at $10. That means that person will give you the $10 for the shares. You'll keep the $12 premium. You bought it for $9.80. They're going to pay you $10 for the stock. So you're going to get that 20 cents, which is about $20. You're going to get that 12 cents, which is $12. So you actually made $32 on your money that week, and then you're done. This is the issue. Don't go, oh, well, I did that, now I can do it again, because you want to keep the discipline. The premium target is 12. The premium was 12. The target was 10. Okay, so here's the risk note. And this is where I am in one position. If the stock drops a lot, your shares will lose value. And the premium helps, but it doesn't erase a big move down. That's why we try to pick calmer names and stay small. I got off of the beaten path a little bit. And so I'm not concerned, but I am waiting. I'm waiting for some stock to go back up, because I got one that moved too much, and because I was aiming for more than 1% at the time. Example. Here's another example for the cash secured put. So you don't have 100 shares. You just start with the cash secured put. So the stock costs $10.20. You'd be comfortable going ahead and putting your entire $1,000 into buying it for $10. So you sell the 1 week $10 put for 10 cents. That's $10 total. So someone will give you $10 to make sure that you will buy their stock for $10 per share, right? So you're going to give them $1,000 for those 100 shares. The account target is $1,000. Your target or the account size is 1,000. So you got your $10 target if you get the 10 cents, right? If the stock stays at or above $10, so if the stock is 10.20 and it drops all the way down to 10.01, the put expires and you keep the premium. You don't have to buy it for $10, because why would they want to sell you the stock for $10 when they could get $10.01? See what I mean? So you don't have to do anything. You just walk away with that $10 and you find somebody to do it again next week. If the stock does go below $10, suddenly the stock drops down to $9.90. Let's say you get that $9.90. You're assigned 100 shares at $10. So you have to pay the $10. Now you have to pay $1,000 for those shares. So now you end up with the shares, but the cost of the shares is really more like $9.90, because you already got 10 cents ahead of time. So next week you have the stocks, and you can sell the covered calls that we did, or that we talked about before on those deals. That's called a wheel, and you just kind of You get in, you've got the stocks, you do the cash secured put to get a stock. And then once you have the stock, you sell calls on it. Once it gets called away, because and it's a wheel, because you'll buy this stock, you'll sell calls on it. Maybe it doesn't go away, call, doesn't go away, call, doesn't go away, call, gets called away from you. Now you do the same thing all over again. And all along the way, you're just collecting small premiums to raise your account value. How we stop. Here's the hardest part, stopping when we hit the week's target. If you hit 1% on Monday, you're done. If you're at 0.6 by Thursday, don't force it. Just take it easy. This isn't about maximizing any single week. It's stacking up the small weeks without blowing up. So say you're at a 0.6, but last week, remember that first week we did 32. That was already 3%. So if the next week you come in at 0.6, you're still ahead. Common pitfalls and how to avoid them. Chasing big premiums on crazy movers. It's tempting, but risks spikes. Over positioning, that's too much size. It breaks your plan. Breaking the stop rule. One extra trade after target can undo the entire week. Our guardrails, boring tickets, tiny size, one weekly target, and review every week. This is where we will help, or we'll help each other in this way. And finally, simple homework. The 1% strategy is 1% per week, covered calls with cash secure puts on steady names with tiny size. If you want to try it, start on paper, pick 2 calm stocks. We'll track their weekly options, practice 1 trade per week until it's boring. When it's boring, it's working. And then if you start seeing the money, then you run into the issues. And so this is why we'll be working with this together. On screen homework, build a 5 ticker watch list. We will work on this in the next few days. Paper trade, 1 income trade for the week, and then we will journal. Did you follow the stop rule? I'm Dad. I'm still learning too, but this is the most consistent way I found to build the habit. If you want the checklist I use, tell me and I'll share it, because I need to whittle it down, because I have actually let my list get too large and juicy. Juicy is what they call the premium, because it becomes very hard or it becomes very attractive or distracting or tempting to see that you can get a much larger premium real quick, but to leave that behind. Don't chase after that, because then you get stuck, as I've been stuck for a couple of weeks now, for about 6 weeks actually, with a trade that I just have to wait for it to get back to where I want to get it, instead of keeping myself on that 1 week, 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 because then it builds up, it builds up, it builds up. All right, that's it. I'm going to hold myself to that amount of time, and then say to you that we'll work on this. And I've already talked to at least one of your cousins who might be listening in and watching as well, and a coworker that may or may not be watching still. So we will keep this moving, and I will show you what we're doing and get it back on track, or keep it on track, I should say. See you later. I'll figure out how to end it. And I still need somebody to come show me how to make videos without just going live. That's the only way I can do it. So I can't even edit. You will no longer be live.